Welcome, welcome to Freaked Out with your co-hosts, Liz and Landon.
What's up, everybody?
I'm so happy that you're here today. Honestly, it's been too long since you were here last. So
It's been a long time. It's been a long time.
Poor Landon got so sick. He was supposed to be here last month. It just didn't work out that way, but that's okay. We're here today.
Been sick for like weeks now.
Yeah, his voice isn't even back to par, so.
I definitely wanted to be here, though, for this Ruby Frankie episode, though.
I mean, I don't blame you. It's nuts. I also wanted to mention that we are well on our way to our 10K. We just hit like 5,500 approximately. I was hoping that we would get to 10K by my birthday. It doesn't look like it.
We still have time.
Yeah.
We still have time. We have like a little, like a month-ish, like a couple weeks. So hopefully we can get there. Come on, guys. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Please, please, please.
That's our next goal.
So normally when we do these episodes, we do like to go through the case first. We like to talk about the case, what's going on. We've all heard this Ruby Frankie case so many times because it is kind of new. It's not an old case. It's something that's going on currently in current day. And it's worldwide. Like everybody knows about Ruby Frankie because she was the YouTube internet sensation, the YouTube mom, as they like to call her. I don't think so, but that's what they called her. But we don't really know anything about Ruby herself or Jodi. We don't really know much about Jodi, just like what we found in the documentaries about her starting this business.
Oh, yeah. There is
therapist business.
There is a lot to uncover with those two.
We're going to dive into the Ruby and Jodi secrets.
But as always, we will give you guys a brief overview because some people may not know. But there are some details that people may not know, so we are going to give a brief overview. You should definitely watch the documentary on Hulu. Hulu is where I got my documentary information from, and it's a good one. They have the father and the kids, the older kids, on that documentary.
And then next week, guys, Liz will be coming back to you with a new episode talking about the singer Selena. I know that we have a few fans that really enjoy talking about Selena. We'll talk about, she'll be talking about Yolanda and her upcoming parole release.
Yeah, that situation is wild, and we're going to be here for it. It's going to be crazy. The Yolanda/Selena episode will be exclusive, so you can actually get the exclusive link right in the description of this video.
So who is Ruby Frankie?
Well, she's an American woman who was born January 18th, 1982.
1 year before you.
1 year before me and right around your birthday.
Exactly.
She was actually known for her YouTube channel called 8 Passengers.
That's where she got her internet sensation, the YouTube mom.
Now, the channel actually didn't start off focusing on the strict parenting side of things, but as it progressed, they had strict parenting, they were homeschooling their kids, the religious beliefs. She was married to a man named Kevin Frankie, who, by the way, even to this day is still in love with her. And the two of them together had 6 kids.
A lot of these people seem to have birthdays close to ours. Similarity birthdays.
Right? I don't know who's worse, Herb Baumeister or Ruby Frankie.
Well, I'm going to say both are equal, but Herb a little bit more because he was luring and murdering victims. Ruby Frankie, close. Second, she didn't actually get to the full point of murdering, but obviously torturing small children and her own small children, not even just random small children, her own small children. And also, guys, if you haven't checked out the Fox Hollow murders, I highly suggest it. It was a good watch for us. It was a good go through for us. I thought it was great. I think Liz did really great on the episode. I definitely would check it out. And I also want to come back and talk more about Mark Goodyear. Mark and his many personalities. I'm going to dive more into him.
Yeah, Mark. We definitely need to come in and dive more on Mark for sure. Now, Ruby, Frankie, and Jodi Hildebrandt were at the center of this shocking revelation that did gain a lot of recognition, media attention in 2023. It was in reference to Ruby and Jodi's abuse towards her younger children.
Luckily for one of the children, he was able to escape. He was able to get to a neighbor's house and also save not only himself, but his younger sister as well.
Thank God for that, because I don't think they would be alive today if they didn't.
If he did not find that strength to escape out of there, I don't think he would have been able to save himself or his sister.
They don't mention this in the documentary because obviously they're not going to talk about it, but I feel like he had been planning this escape for a few days. I see that Jodi was busy doing something.
I agree with you. I believe that he was planning this for some time. Maybe he found a rock while he was out there, a small sharp rock, and kept cutting at the ties
and then
tied to weights.
And then the poor little girl had her hair cut.
Yeah, shaved, military style, they said, shaved bald. So it looked like she was a little boy, but she was actually a little girl. Just the conditions, the skin conditions with the cayenne pepper and that mixture that they would put on their wounds.
I'm pretty sure their reaction to being abused, I don't understand how Ruby didn't come to a point where their reaction to being abused is exactly why they are getting punished, because they're reacting to the abuse. Does that make any fucking sense? I don't know.
No, but these religious people who will go way beyond just normal religion, they're going above and beyond. That is not what any God, Jesus would not want any of that for you. They do not want you torturing your children, people. Please stop doing that.
Honest to God.
You do not need to torture your children. If you feel like they have, quote unquote, what Ruby felt, the devil in your child.
Get them help.
Right, get them help.
Jodi's a woman, and so is Ruby.
Yeah.
They believe in the Mormon religion that men already they are godly creatures and that they can do things, perform these types of ceremonies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I'm thinking that Jodi was like, well, there's no men here, so I'm the ruler and I'm going to be the one to do this. You know what I mean?
I think she definitely wanted to, but obviously it was not working.
No, obviously.
The methods that they were doing, the children were progressively getting worse. But again, like you said, they were getting worse with their behavior because they were acting out towards the abuse that they were receiving.
Exactly. Reacting to the pain.
Right.
That's all I see that was happening. These kids weren't dumb. They weren't going to just...
They also seen their older siblings go through some abuse too. Not nearly what they were going through, but they see Ruby has been strict their whole lives.
Yeah.
And so these younger kids, they saw that, but sadly, these younger kids got a little bit worse because of Jodi. She really pushed Ruby.
Yeah. It's easier to be, if you're the parent, it is easier for an outsider to be like, your kids have the devil in them. Because she was also going through the possessions, right?
Yep.
So she was like, yep, I know your children have the devil in them. And then Ruby thinking, oh my God, how are we going to do this? And just decides to go to any means necessary.
Right. I got to get the devil out of my children because Ruby was already mentally fragile and vulnerable. Jodi was able to get into those cracks of Ruby's insecurities and got her to get rid of her husband and everything and move in with her and all this jazz. And then also got Ruby to trust her.
Yeah.
Which was the biggest thing.
And that was hard. From what Ruby Frankie's neighbor said, she didn't even associate with them. She didn't communicate with them. Yep. She didn't even acknowledge them.
So what was this connections classroom?
A online or sometimes in person life coaching therapy program founded by Jodi that taught men and women the emotional struggles streaming of lack of accountability, severe discipline to correct behavior. And one thing that a lot of the women had in common was that their husbands were looking at porn and they looked at that like devilish, like evil.
I do know a lot of religious people who feel that is evil through the screen.
Right. They were trying to correct these behaviors and these men would go for it. There were women in the, therapy side of things too, but Jodi wanted to basically make men feel lower on the totem pole, which I can understand that perspective because it's always about the men being at the top ranking. So maybe she just wanted to change it up a bit. But I mean, you don't need to go through and emasculate all these men doing so, especially on the porn side of things. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, there's therapies that could be done to help somebody not do that, but telling them that they're pieces of shit and making their wives leave them and all this and saying that they're all devils is definitely not the way to go.
Of course, I can see why women would be uncomfortable with it because it's another female or females that they're looking at and they're feeling insecure in their relationship. But ultimately, you guys just got to work through those problems if that's a huge issue.
Real couples therapy.
Right. And I think there were times where the women weren't even there. So it's just a group.
Yeah. Jodi would just be telling all these men like how much of a bag of shit they are.
Yeah.
Which in turn makes me believe that this cult, because that's what I feel like it is, walking red flag.
Absolutely.
Abusive power, abuse of people's minds, money, life, everything.
Oh, I would agree with you there. And it's punishment over compassion.
Yes.
Parents are basically being told to deny their children of essential needs to teach them accountability. No, you don't take your children's essential needs away.
Never.
You take away their electronics, their the things that they love and care about, not basic human needs. Like there's no need for that. And I'll never agree with that.
Taking her kid's entire room away, his bed, his everything, and then making him sleep on a beanbag in the basement. What is that? Why would you do that?
7 or 8 months. Yeah.
7 months sleeping there. And like you said, taking away all of his belongings, his clothes, his bed, his room and everything. Why would you do that?
If they got phones, which I mean, they probably didn't. These kids,
I don't think that
But if they did have phones, that would be the direction I would go in.
Right, you start taking some of the things that they really enjoy, like that, but not their safety of having their bed
and food and
water.
Freedom, like they're shackled up. It's disgusting.
Yeah,
and then the other thing, of course, is the isolation.
Yes,
encouraging them to fall back from their family. So if they were like, okay, you're adults to the older kids, because you are not following suit what is happening in this household, then you are no longer in this family. Cutting off the husband, doing all these things. It's like, isolating people, which is what Jodi wanted to do to Ruby, was isolate her from her family so that she can continue to keep thinking like Jodi.
Oh, you don't agree with us? Get out. Now you're nothing. Cut the oldest daughter off of the health care and stuff, which also is wrong. Why are you going to take your child's health coverage away?
Especially when they were basically the reason that Ruby got the money to begin with.
Right.
Nobody was watching that channel for Ruby's shit.
No.
They were watching it for the kids. And those children, in my opinion,
Chad and the oldest,
I'd be suing the father for that one.
Yeah, Chad and Sherry, the two oldest children, they made that channel. They made that 8-passenger channel because they were the ones who were the stars. They were on the channel, and like you said, that's what people wanted to see. They wanted to see Chad being goofy and funny, and Sherry maybe interacting with Chad, dancing, singing, and stuff.
Fun.
Nobody watched Ruby's stuff where she's talking about whatever. Get $10.
Yeah. $10 a video for the kids. Cool.
Right. She was making millions and only giving the children $10 a video. That's also abuse. She had this video camera on these kids all day.
Right. And how many hours? You're not even allowed to work your children that long.
Right. She had it on from the moment they woke up to the moment they went to sleep. And then all you're going to give them is $10 a video. That is so sweatshop abuse.
I know that they're trying to fix all the stuff with the family, but the dad also saw all this and he should be held accountable for that.
He should. I also agree. A lot of people are very upset and they're like, the dad got to walk away, which is true. Even though he didn't do the abuse to the younger two children, he was still a part of the abuse for the older kids when they lived in that house before he got kicked out of the family. Was he at work? Did he do it? No, but he would come home and see what was going on.
Exactly. And he knew the financial side of things as well.
Right.
He knew what was happening.
He knew giving them $10 wasn't okay. Mm-hmm. Ruby would get really upset and punish the children if they did not want to participate in the videos. Again, you as the husband, he should have been like, Ruby, stop. If they don't want to be on the video, they don't have to be.
Exactly.
Give them a break.
Stand up to her.
Right.
You're supposed
to be the husband.
Exactly. And in this situation, if you're following along with this particular Mormon religion, then you should be the one to grow a pair and say, enough's enough, Ruby.
Well,
exactly.
The man is the ruler. He makes the last say. So why didn't he ever step in and tell Ruby, enough is enough? We're not going to video our children anymore, or all this time we're going to give them a break.
Exactly. Should definitely be putting it away for their future, you know.
In a college fund or something, start putting money away in each one of their names. So when they turn 18, if they need to use it for college or get their own place, then so be it. They have that money. The whole house got turned into a studio. They had to change all the light bulbs. They had to change all the light bulbs. They had to change everything. Cleaning all day and all night when they weren't videoing. Even sometimes videoing them cleaning.
Yeah, I also want to point out this is very similar to 19 Kids and Counting. Yes. And I really believe that that is the kind of abuse that goes on in that household as well.
Absolutely.
And I mean, we don't see any of that, but that's just the vibe I'm getting there. That's the thing about homeschooling your children. Like, it's great and all, but they still need a social life
with other children besides their siblings.
Exactly. They need to be outside of their own environment for safety reasons, for that matter as well. But just overall, like, they should be able to interact with other people.
So a little while after Ruby joined Connections and kicked out her husband, Jodi convinced Ruby to move in with her in her house after Ruby has cut everybody off at this point. The two older children, her husband, she only had the younger kids, and then moved the two youngest ones with her in Jodi's place.
Right. And even before all that happened, she was leaving these kids home for days on end, and with no food, no water, no nothing. Like,
well, that's when the oldest, Sherry, who was in college, got a call from her neighbor saying that her two youngest siblings were left at home without food, and they've been peeking out the window for days. Sherry made a call. Then all of a sudden, these two children vanished. So Ruby's YouTube channel, 8 Passengers, went from their first video that they ever made, which was a gender reveal video, to then that child ended up being abused to the point of no recognition, which was the youngest girl who ended up having her head shaved. Now I want to get into talking a little bit about Jodi and her craziness over there.
Yeah, Jodi's a real friggin' character, that's for sure.
Jodi Hildebrandt was a licensed therapist until her arrest. Obviously, then she lost that. So I do want to mention about Jodi a little bit and Ruby, what happened behind closed doors.
Oh, so much I want to talk about on this. Jodi and Ruby were on the same page when it comes to how they wanted to approach children and discipline. They felt like their rough, tough methods should straighten anybody out, basically. Ruby at this point was grasping for straws, because there were even people within the religion that were also not okay with her very strict rules. So she needed someone to basically validate her. So they basically took the oldest, which his name's Chad, you said?
Chad, yeah.
So they took the oldest to start this methodology off on him. And they basically, like, normal, pubescent, puberty, like, the kids go through hormones at that age.
Absolutely.
A lot of teenagers just have this attitude, and it's just a normal
All teenagers
phase.
have attitude,
and,
yeah.
You know, and yes, a lot of teenagers are disrespectful to their parents, and they do say no a lot, and they do become aggressive, but that doesn't mean that there's a devil within them. That's just normal puberty shit. Well, with Jodi, she talked a big game. And, you know, she basically told Ruby, like, I'm going to help you and I'm going to be here for you.
We'll get the devil out of Chad.
Right. But Jodi also had an agenda. She looked at Ruby as a cash cow, like, hey, I'm going to get this fame myself and I'm going to make money off of this lady. But in addition to all of that, she was also very attracted to Ruby. She was attracted to her energy, her light, because if we pull away all the crazy from Ruby, she could be somebody who may, like, want to relate to her, personable. I don't know. She gives that, at least that feeling of being personable.
She seemed inviting,
right?
Which would make it enticing for somebody to want to get to know her or whatever.
With Ruby, she was, like, enjoying the attention. Did her husband give her attention? Absolutely. But she was I
don't think that is much, especially towards the end there. If you've seen, like, some of the video clips of him, he was like, ugh.
Yeah, no, he was definitely annoyed with the filming aspect of things, but Jodi was all about it. So, like, it was like a new, fresh person in her life that was giving her the attention she wanted. And although she's not about that gay life, Jodi made it seem like, okay, if you have sex with me, maybe we can get this devil out of me. Maybe this devil will leave me alone. And then she would do things like, oh, it didn't work. We got to do it again. Or it's your children. Because your children are around, they're bringing this devil energy into me. Like, she totally fucked with Ruby's mind. And I can feel that Ruby was pretty much sexually assaulted in a way, because she didn't really want to do this, but she was kind of forced into sexual games. I even believe that Jodi, I know that she abused the children, but I see that she also abused Ruby when the kids were, not having progress as well.
Honestly, that is such a crazy, like, ass backwards way of trying to get someone in bed. Like, you gotta fuck the devil out of me, and your children have the devil in them, so that means you gotta fuck me more. Like, that doesn't even... I'm sitting here still trying to be like, what? Right. How does that even make sense? I cannot make that make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. And then, because Ruby was still married to her husband, and their relationship at one point was actually getting better.
Yeah.
And from what I can see, Jodi was getting jealous, which is another reason that this devil made all these appearances. So, because she wasn't getting all the attention that she wanted before.
Absolutely. You can even tell in that documentary when she was like laying on the floor and she was like, oh, it's in me. And she was like, oh, I'm so hot. How this? Like, you could tell that was totally her acting, like, to the highest degree.
Yeah.
But I agree. I feel like, obviously, when Kevin and Ruby split, they did not get a divorce. They just separated. Kevin had to move into his own place. That's when Kevin really put forth all the efforts to try to fix whatever was wrong with him. He wasn't watching porn anymore, wasn't doing any of that.
Kevin was, like, I think he loves his children, but I think he loves Ruby more.
Well, he does, because he said in the documentary, he's like, I love my children, but Ruby will always be number one.
Exactly, yeah.
And then he's like, I don't think it's wrong that I love my wife more than my children.
And it almost like obsessive. Like, he goes back to his younger years and even is like, wow, she picked me. I went through the list of all her wants and qualifications of what she needed in a man, and she picked me. And, like, he's still, like, thinks that she's this amazing person underneath it all.
Was, like, mentally cracked then when she was younger and didn't get any help, and she, like, forced Kevin to be all these things. Was like, here's my list of what I expect for a man. You must follow it, or I will not pick you. And then she didn't even have any other prospects.
I know she did. She did have some prospects.
I don't think so. I feel like that maybe she felt like it, but I feel like Kevin was the only one, and she tricked him into being this person, into thinking that he was the chosen one.
I also believe that Ruby was abused in the same manner that she's abusing her children. I feel like this is generational trauma here. And I believe that in her mind, her generation, they were more well-behaved. Her kids, not as much. She felt like she had to take it an extra level as well. Of course, all of this was happening in and around the time of COVID. There were hurricanes happening. Everyone, I guess...
So much destruction was happening.
And people, including the Mormon people, were like thinking this was the coming of Christ, that their lives would be saved. They weren't worried about dying because they're like, well, we're going to be saved because we believe in this religion, right? So they were thinking that. And Jodi took that to her advantage and used that like, yep, I told you guys, this is all happening because of what is happening in this household. And it kind of scared everybody, including Ruby.
Christ was coming, and he was coming in hot, and he was taking out anybody that didn't want to follow along with this. My question is, did Ruby ever like disbelieve this stuff or ever not want to follow this? Like, did she ever have a moment where she's like, is this real?
Honestly, she believed it from the very beginning. There was not one moment of wavering, period. She thought, yep, this woman has a devil in her. My calling is to get it out of her. My calling is to be her savior. I'm going to get this out no matter what the consequences are. And Jodi knew that, and Jodi took advantage.
So you had mentioned to me when we were watching this and talking about you feel like there's some sort of sex trafficking involved in this. Would you like to talk about that a little bit more?
So there are a lot of churches, not just Mormon, but there are a lot of churches involved with sex trafficking. I'm sorry to say, but it's true. Jodi had a direct link for kids that were, unsavable, if you will.
In her mind, unsavable.
In her mind, unsavable. To basically send children off into sex trafficking to fix them. I believe she's trying to convince Ruby to maybe send her two youngest in that direction. And I also believe that she might have sent pictures and films of these children, in drugged situations and drugged states, to kind of entice people. And I also believe that there were many kids within the Mormon religion specifically that were sex trafficked. And I also see that these kids were never even put in the media as missing, because these parents didn't technically, lose their children. They sent them off into the sex trafficking ring. And then most of them come back, some run away, and then the parents just have to deal with it and just, disown their children. But yeah, I see that Jodi had a few contacts within the religion, within the church, that she sent these children off to. So yeah.
I do know that, which is something that I'd like to dive into eventually at one point in time, and we might find something. But remember when we were watching that documentary of that school, and those kids were there? That's pretty much like a lot of what happens is these church camps are really just a camp where a lot of sick pedophiles go. And then you send your children there. Your children get touched at these church camps.
To straighten them up.
And then they get sent home with even more problems. And their parents are told, send your kids to our church camp. We'll straighten them out. We'll get them to go follow the Lord in the right path. And then you send your kids, and then they come back even worse because they've been abused sexually at these camps.
Exactly. And it's a fucked up cycle. So sad.
And then they're like, oh, it didn't work. You got to send them again.
Right. And then when the kids, and that's exactly what I was going to say there, is these kids will come home and like you said, they're traumatized. It's so scary. I don't understand how people can put your children in situations like that. There are so many kids out there that have run on the streets and are now on the streets as adults and have gone through all of this trauma, not wanting to be near their families because of things like this.
Do you think that they're going to serve the max, or how much time do you think they're going to get?
So I believe that we're going to find out a little bit more of Jodi as time progresses. I feel like there's some other illegal activities that she may end up getting called out for. I would say that Jodi may end up spending the full time, or at least close to it. But I feel like Ruby will get out sooner rather than later. Not, years and years, but I'd say maybe half of her sentence, maybe about 15 years, I think she'll get out. I also want to mention that there are others in the background as well that have not been on camera or been on television that are in association with Jodi's connections that still have yet to receive any sort of punishment or any sort of charges. And I feel like they witnessed a lot of the things that happened with the kids as well. So I feel like there's more to come with that, but they will get in trouble eventually as well. And one in particular is really heavily attached to the sex trafficking ring.
Yikes. So obviously they didn't give us in this documentary any details into any of the other people involved in this quote unquote, scam of connections.
They don't want to run I feel like they are aware of certain things, but they do not want to run or muck up the Mormon religion,
right?
Make it look bad. So they're not sharing any of this. And I honestly think some of these things will be kept private, out of the public eye.
I think so too. Yeah. Because like you said, no religion, once they feel attacked, they're not going to say anything because they don't want people to not want to join their religion.
Exactly.
So do you think that the underground sex trafficking ring that's part of this, scenario is ever going to get dismantled? Anybody ever going to get caught?
Sadly, I just feel like we're in a shitty timeline right at this moment. I don't feel like any money that we had government-wise trying to bring down these sex trafficking rings, like it's not even a concern anymore. It has been taken off the table. We don't care who's being trafficked or sex trafficked, obviously, because look who's in office, right? So
somebody who was part of the sex trafficking.
Exactly. Part of Epstein's Island, which is also part of the sex trafficking. So yes, I don't feel like anything's happening with that at the moment. Once the government changes hands again, I do believe we'll get back on track with it, but it's going to take like 4 years from that point. So I would say we still have like 8 years now. We were really close. I'll tell you. When
Ashton Kutcher was on the docket and he was really pushing, I think we were about to find at least, even if it was a small ring.
Right. Because he made that mistake and gave that statement, him and his wife gave those statements to Danny Masterson. That really fucked everything up for him
so much.
And I think that instead of like people weren't looking, like I get it, that was totally uncalled for. He shouldn't have done that at all. But we took away from what he was actually doing. He even took himself out of it to try to not diminish his name, but I don't think it helped him any.
It didn't help. He tried to step away so that they could still do it, but that a lot of people pulled out money-wise, that they were supporting the money. So it turned out really bad,
right?
For him. Yeah, but we were close. I know it.
But we'll get there again one day. But right now, it's not a priority.
Oh yeah, I figured that it wasn't. Unfortunately, how do we feel about Kevin and all this? I know that we talked a little bit about him. I think that he still should have served something, because in the times from when they started this 8 passengers to before he got kicked out of the house, even though he worked, he came home and saw some of these things going on with these kids. So even the Chad, putting him in the basement, how did he agree to this? Like, he should be in jail.
Because he helped their investigation, he got a plea deal. I see that he was protected because of all the information he shared, because he wasn't directly involved. But I mean, he's going to deal with a lot of consequences, like his children. His children will never forgive him for this. I don't
think they should.
No, I don't see that happening. I feel like he'll kind of fall off the face of the earth at some point. I don't feel like he's an evil creature, but I definitely believe he is someone who will blindly, to this day, follow into a cult and stick with it. I do see a new woman coming into his life that will be very similar looking to Ruby Frankie, which will be super creepy. And for some reason, I don't see any more children for him, but I think this woman has children. And I'd say that he'll be engaged there. But honestly, he doesn't even really want to fix his relationship with his kids. I think he's got an okay relationship with Chad, but I also believe their relationship will be extremely strained at some point as well. When Ruby sent him away, I mean, yeah, he was upset that his wife sent him away, but he also got a break and he was enjoying not having the responsibility of children at that time.
Yeah, I feel like that's like how he was. Like, he never wanted to be on camera. He never really wanted to be involved with the kids.
He wasn't a very present father.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, he wasn't like involved with them. Like, you see him on a couple of those 8 passenger videos where he's goofing around with Chad, but he never really goofs around with any of the other kids.
He certainly was not an alpha.
No, he was really just in the background. And Ruby was the one who pushed him more to be on the camera.
He has no direction. Even now, you can just see it. Like, he doesn't know what to do without her. And he loves her, and in his mind, he thinks that one day when she gets out, they'll be able to reconcile.
Yeah, he is a lost puppy. He is one of those that he is a person, like you said, very easily, like if somebody had a cult and they were like, hey, we love you, we want you here, and you follow our things, we'll love you forever. He will be like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's just, he's easily controlled. He's one of the sheep that will follow.
I agree. And they were very careful in this documentary not to touch on the Mormon religion, because they don't want the Mormon religion to look like this was what they were suggesting. But a lot of people within the Mormon religion do these things, maybe not to the extreme of the cayenne pepper and beating the children, but there is definitely a lot of abuse, like taking away their necessities and their needs, and still going on. People still believe in Jodi and Ruby.
And yeah, making them like recite Bible stuff, writing Bible stuff.
I see fans writing letters to them, like just nuts. People are crazy. I just don't get it. Oh yeah, there's one more thing that I forgot to mention. So as we were saying earlier, when it came to Ruby and Jodi, they were, fighting this charge at first, but then they got word from up above to stop. And that if they didn't stop, that somebody would be sent to prison to kill them. I am seeing that they could have gone from 4 counts each to like maybe 2 counts if they had given out the details, because there's always a man involved in being in charge on this scheme. And I really believe that they are protecting this guy from getting in trouble. And because of that, they decided to totally turn back the clocks and say, you know what? Yep, guilty as charged, because they were going to carry on saying all these crazy things throughout this trial. But they did not want their religion to look bad, but also they were afraid that more people would be exposed. So it goes pretty deep. Even Jodi's afraid of this human being. And from what I can see, they may come out later. Maybe it'll be Ruby. But I do see that Ruby may end up telling us about this Christ figure, that they are the savior they have been waiting for to come. It's pretty intense. And I just felt like you guys needed to hear that little detail. But anyways, back to the video. But yeah, that is basically all we got on this episode today.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming. Obviously, we need to thank Liz for all the hard work that she has done to channel all these people, channel all these situations, try to get us all the answers that we're looking for. May not always be the answers that we want to hear, but it's definitely the answers that we need to hear.
Absolutely. Oh, and I want to mention as well. So yes, we're doing the Selena/Yolanda episode, but we're also doing I think it's Karen Reed as well. Somebody brought this documentary to me, and I'm just as confused as you guys are, so I can't wait to dive in.
Well, until next time, guys, stay freaked out.